What's up, everyone? Today I want to talk about Crime and Punishment, but it's not the Crime and Punishment that we're used to. This is my super rad Crime and Punishment book. I did an unboxing, so if you wish to take a look at that, it's in my videos. This is the Beehive Books edition. Beautiful. But it's not going to be about this. It is going to be about Classics Illustrated, Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. This is number 79. This was originally published in 1951. So, of course, this is a reprint. Got it a few months back and read it and wanted to talk about, as you notice, it's a little thin, so I kind of wanted to talk about the nature of the book in such a condensed format. And is it worth reading? Is it worth translating into comic book? So yeah, let's talk about that. Here we are, Classics Illustrated number 79. As you can tell, they made quite a few of these. Classics Illustrated would adapt literary works into comic book form, and I'm a huge advocate for literacy. So however you wish to read, in whatever medium, whatever gets you to read, do it. I think this is a great way to get people into literature. I think this is a great way to introduce people to how to read. I love comic books, and they helped me how to read. They were very important in my formative years, especially English was my second language, and comic books helped me with that. So what they're doing is great. My only issue is how condensed it is. You know, it's a small book, and does it do the story justice? First off, let's start with the cover. I don't think the artist knew I don't think he read Crime and Punishment. So, I mean, it looks like they were really just trying to earn a paycheck on this one. Someone offered them the Crime and Punishment cover, and they did it. They're like, let's put Lady Justice on the cover. That sounds right. You know, Crime and Punishment. Let's put this guy that's scared. He's about to get caught. Does not even look like Raskolnikov at all. He's a dapper young fellow, just straight out of the pulps. So it reminds me of the Mega Man cover art from the original Nintendo. The guy, it looks like the guy, I don't think he did. I don't think he actually looked at the video game. They just told him there's this blue dude with a gun hand, but it's not a gun hand. Anyways, I digress. We begin with Crime and Punishment. So we got Raskolnikov here at the moment of murdering the sister of the original person he was intending to murder. That was this woman who would who would pretty much be a pawn shop. She would loan out money and give them a pittance for it. So Raskolnikov is obviously pissed off as how much he can get from him. He's pissed off at his whole situation. He's pissed off he's broke. So he comes out with a plan to murder her and take all her money. So he does this. He plans it. He does this whole murder plot. The whole time Raskolnikov looks just like an evil guy with no redemption. There's no quality in him that you can say that, oh, that was kind of cool of him. In the book, it's way more nuanced. This book just has Raskolnikov just be a scumbag. So that's one thing. They just made him a straightforward villain in this. So he goes in, he schemes that he was going to give her this piece, puts a heavy piece in there, making her think that there's valuables in here, and that's when he kills her with the axe. And then his sister walks in, and her sister walks in, and he has to kill her too. Grabs all the stuff, leaves, and that's where the issues begin. So this book is really just basic plot beats from the original novel. There's very little philosophical discussions between the characters, which is a huge thing in the books. And there's going to be a huge omission in this. Aside from the first couple people that you saw, this book is completely devoid of women, which is a huge part of the original story. Huge part. Like, I cannot overstate that. So we have the murder has been done. He goes and now has to show up to the police station. He thinks it's because they caught him. Does not turn out to be that case. He then ends up getting a fever, starts getting delirious. His friend comes in. He's concerned about his boy. And this is, again, like I'm glossing through it because it's literally that. It's just plot beats. It's not really much going on in this particular section of the book. The discussions begin where Porfiri, I hope I'm saying that correctly, he's the main detective, or the guy who's the prosecutor. He begins to have discussions with Raskolnikov. And it becomes a cat and mouse. That's when it starts becoming more of a game of psychology. This book is more like Death Note than anything, than Crime and Punishment. So it's really more of who's more clever than the other, which are in the book. And they're great. They're great moments of psychology and, trying to have the other one slip. This is probably the most important part, the coolest part as far as the discussions are concerned. And he starts to grill him in regards to the murder, trying to find a way to trick him. So there's a moment where he's where is he at? Where does he ask this? Yeah, so at this moment, it's like, when you called on the pawnbroker the last time, it was past 7, wasn't it? Yes. Didn't you see in the flat that stood open on the second story 2 workmen, or at least one of them? They were painting there. It's very important for them. Painters? No, I didn't see them. I don't think I saw a flat open. There's a trap somewhere. And that's when his boy comes in. He's like, what do you mean? Why, it was on the day of the murder the painters were at work. And he was there 3 days before. What are you asking? And so it's these little moments where he's attempting to catch Raskolnikov in a trap. And so it starts becoming a little later. This guy calls him murderer. He's like, how the hell? Doesn't really react in a way that would make him culpable, but still he's now concerned. Who's this guy and how does he know? So it turns out Porfiri put him out there and to call him murderer and to see what's going on. Because he knows he's the murderer. He's aware that he's a murderer. This part's where the painter comes in and starts to confess to the murder. He was grilling Raskolnikov, and then the painter comes in. Porfiri's surprised. Raskolnikov is shaken. They both know that was not expected, and Raskolnikov knows that he's on to him. His friend, he thought he was the murderer too, but it turns out now he's thinking that he's a political conspirator. So finally, we get to the end of the story, and you have the discussion where it's like, "Why you, my dear fellow? You are the murderer." Again, cat and mouse ensues, all this good stuff, and it's like, "How did you think that I was a murderer?" He starts doing this whole Sherlock Holmes, Death Note, L versus Light thing, and at the very end of this adaptation, it's just him coming in and telling Porfiri, yeah, it was I who killed the old pawnbroker woman and her sister with an axe. I robbed him. So that's the end of the story, which, if you read the book, this is not the end of the book. There's, again, the omission of women makes it very difficult to have the proper ending of the book. I think it's also important to take note of Fyodor Dostoyevsky's life. I think he had a wild life. He served in Siberia as a prisoner. He was a prisoner in Siberia. In April 1849, he joined a social studies circle, and during a reactionary purge was arrested. 8 months later, he and his companions were led out to face a firing squad. They were given the cross to kiss. The dagger was broken over their heads, and the first 3 were stood up for execution. Dostoyevsky was in the second group to be executed. Suddenly, retreat was sounded. Those bound were brought back And it was read to us that His Imperial Majesty granted us our lives. The Tsar, it was explained to the prisoners, wanted to give them a lesson. One of the prisoners went insane. This incident is recounted in Dostoyevsky's The Idiot. So just wild. He was in a Siberian prison for a while, for years, I believe. So cool little extras in here. The names, I did not know about the names. There were moments in the book where characters are named differently by other different people, and for a moment you're confused. You're like, who are you talking to? So it's because of this. Russian novels are notable for their bewildering variety of names. Every character seems to have called something different by every other character, and all the names seem to mean something, but you can't tell what. The truth is a little much simpler. Russians have 3 names: their given name, their patronymic name, and their family name. The given name, like Rodion, can be made more intimate by shortening it, like Radya or Radka. So there's a lot of people with a bunch of different names, and you have to get used to that. This is cool. This goes more into the actual book because it speaks on the female characters of the book, like the duality. From his title onward, Dostoevsky has organized crime and punishment as a series of dualities. Raskolnikov moves from pride to humility, from reason to faith, from isolation to community. As a part of the structure, Dostoevsky includes pairs of characters, people, or represent alternative ideas or mirror versions of the same idea. For example, Raskolnikov chooses between Sonia's transcendent morality and, I'm gonna butcher this, Svidrigailov's debased amorality. Some paired characters have ideological connections, like Marmeladov and Luzin, and other emotional ones, the pawnbroker and Raskolnikov's mother. Important things. This is all over the book, everywhere. You'll see it. It's he writes so beautifully. I love that book. Such a good book. So yeah, like the cool things about it is, I mean, this book predates modernism as far as the original. It has a lot of the trappings of modernism. This was published in 1867, whereas arguably modernism started in the late 19th century and was at full steam during World War I, so 1914 and 1918. There's stream of consciousness, some of it in here, but a lot in the book. It explores sociological and psychological themes, alienation and challenging the moral compass of its culture. The values of the era are put under a microscope and criticized. The book itself, again, the actual book, has the importance of women again. The paternalism fails in the social structure of Russia. Men can succeed after a benefactor dies, but women cannot. Women rely solely on the man's ability to provide for them. Women missing their importance. Dostoevsky's commentary on gender roles is vital in the components of the book. It dives into Russia's paternalism within social structures and the failures of such a system on women and children, as well as breeding resentment for men unable to adhere to the pressures of paternalism, which happens to Raskolnikov. Women are incapable of surviving when their benefactors dies. As mentioned, women die when the partners die, or they're tossed out in the streets. The care for the children drives them mad in some characters. They begin lying to themselves to tolerate the truth. The cognitive dissonance is just too much for these women. Religion is a coping mechanism through a lot of the misery. It masterfully displays his human observations and knowledge on the human condition, social and psychological. The women also have an important part in Raskolnikov. They humanize him. He breaks down twice, and each time is like an epiphany, it's an epiphany for him. Once with his mother, and the other with Sonia. We discuss parallels as the final part of it mentioned. Each chapter carries important philosophical questions within the characters' arguments, and all of these are missing in this comic book adaptation. It's absolutely necessary plot beats to make it comprehensible. The fault of its page limit, not the storyteller. It's like having someone say, "Hey, man, You got the green light to film Dune. Awesome. Bad news is you got to do it in a 30-minute after-school special. It's just, there's too much missing. So they tried. It's what I can say. They gave it a go. So that's what I got. You know, I just thought it was be a fun little comparison from the comic book to the original work. Hope you all enjoyed. Talk to y'all later. Peace.